Assalamu alaikum. Hello everybody. How are you doing? I hope everybody is doing fine. This is Shakar Salah. We'll be continuing with Headway Academic Skills Level 3. But this time we are doing reading and writing. So basically the second part of the book. Alright guys, let's get started. Urban planning. This is the topic of the Unit 3, and well, this material is being submitted to University of Slemani College of Nursing first year students. The unit outline will be covering a paragraph purpose in reading part and text cohesion, and then it goes to the research part. In the research part we have using reference material and searching the internet efficiently, and also selecting information. Alright, so that would be covering three parts, three things, and each one of them very important. But in the reading part, the selecting information is about writing. So when it comes to writing, we have selecting information, prioritizing, and also brainstorming. And finally, in the vocabulary development, we will be studying collocations. That's also very important. All right, let's continue. Questions for discussion. Well, this is just to involve you guys with the theme of the unit. I want you guys to open your books to Unit 3 of the Reading and Writing Headway Academic Skills book. If you open the book on page 20, well, if you guys don't have it, please pause the video and go get your book and open it and get ready, and then play the video again. I want you guys to read these questions and answer them. For each one, take 1 minute. The first question says, what changes have there been to your city in the last 10 years? So if you have a picture of Slemani, for example, or wherever you are from, Kalar or Chamchamal or any city. So imagine the city before 10 years and now. What changes have been in there? So think for 1 minute and say something in the answer, okay? Write something in the answer. It can be writing or saying it. No difference for me, because this is just for involving you guys. The second question says, have these changes improved your city or not? So think about it. Again, another minute, answer it. Do you like living in city or in a country? A country means a village, a small place, a small area. So would you like to live in a place which is not very crowded, not too much traffic, and full of trees, and basically the weather is more clean and more peaceful and quiet? Or you want to be in a city which is so busy, but also you can get a job easily, you get more entertainment, you see more people, it depends. So which one is your favorite? What would you like to change and improve in your city? What do you think? What would you like to change in your city if you have the ability to change something in your city? What would you change? Will your change would be about education, or would it be in terms of streets and transportation, or it would be about health and hospitals and healthcare? What do you think? So I want you guys to think and pause the video and answer the questions, and then resume the video while you have your book in front of you as well. All right, now let's come to the reading part, which is the first part. Okay, now let's review survey and skim and scan. Survey was what we studied this in the first unit. We already discussed this together, but I'm just gonna repeat it for you because in the first paragraph we have an article about lessons from Cortiba. That's a city in Brazil. So the first one, in the first exercise, we have a bunch of questions that you have to use survey to answer them. Let me let me tell you the questions. The first one says, is the text from a newspaper or a professional journal? So you have to look at the text only by seeing the picture or the titles. You would get an idea that this is a newspaper or it's a journal. Well, it's a journal for those. Well, it's clear that it's not a newspaper. Newspaper texts are quite different, and each one has subheadings, and it's basically so many qualities are different in here. What do the pictures show? Well, we have a picture of a different transportation, and also we see the sky of the city and some large and high towers, high buildings. So we can say a view of the city or just transportation. Which city is it about? If you just see the title, you can answer this question. So what do we get from this? It says it is a process of looking at the material and decide whether it is useful or not. So in surveying, you're not going to read the text carefully. You're not going to go in depth. You're just going to see from the surface, from the, from a quick look, okay? So looking at the title, the headings, the pictures, the graphics, only those things. And also looking at the style of the text, all right? So decide, is it an internet? Is it from a university? Is it from a journal? Or is it academic, or it's between friends, informal? So you can just decide whether by just looking at the text. All right, now let's move on to skim. Well, skim is a little bit more in depth, a little more in depth, but still it's not, it's not quite about detail, but it's just about general idea. So the process that involves seeing how information is organized and to get a general idea. So skimming involves what? Reading the title and any heading. So in here you also have the title, just like the survey, but the only difference here is you also have to read the headings or the topic sentences. So let's say you have 5 paragraphs. It's a wise idea, it's a wise choice to go and read the topic sentence of all of the paragraphs so that you know each paragraph talks about what. And also reading the first sentence and of few paragraphs. That's what I just mentioned. So if you look at the exercise 3, it says skim the text. Will it be useful to research topics 1 to 4? Yeah. So urban planning in Brazil. Do you think it's going to be talking about that? Well, yeah, because Cortiba is a place in Brazil, is a city in Brazil. Urban planning in Japan? Well, do you think so? No, I don't think so. Well, because we're talking about Brazil, not Japan. All right. Agachi, that's a name and his work. Well, if you guys go quickly through the text, you will see it in the end of paragraph C and also at the beginning of paragraph D. You will see the name Agachi. It's written. It's very accessible. Everybody can find it since it's the beginning of paragraph D. So when you go around the text, you will basically see it, and because it's in the topic sentence, so that name has an important role in your text. So you can say yes. And the number 4, Cortiba's influence on urban planning. Well, generally just by looking at the text, not reading it even. I can say yes. All right, let's go next. Okay, in here we have scanning. Well, scanning is a little more difficult and also more important. In scanning is a process of reading the text to find specific information. So the previous one was only to get the gist, but now you are reading it to get the specific information, to get the small detail. And all right, so this one to locate the information you need. All right, so you got a question, you have to read the question, and then you go throughout the text and find that piece of information for yourself. Move quickly through the text. Do not read every word. So in here, you do not read from the first paragraph till the end, but you rather have to expect in which part of the text you will find that piece of information, and you only have to read that part. Okay? Stop when you come to the information you need. That's it. When you get what you wanted, you stop. That's it. All right? You don't go further. For example, you want to get a year. For example, you have a text about Titanic, and you say, oh, who is the main actor of the movie? So you go and you'll end up finding Leonardo DiCaprio. That's it. You have to stop in there. Or you say, when did Titanic movie released? So at that time you have to go through the text, and whenever you see 1997, you stop. That's it. All right. This is scanning, guys. This one is, more important. Also takes a little longer. So maybe a question would take 1 minute or sometimes 2 minutes. It depends on the question. All right, next. The structure of an essay. The structure of an essay. An essay is a group of paragraphs. Well, basically, we learned paragraph. We said a paragraph can be 100 words or something less or more than 100 words, and consist of 5 to 10 sentences, sometimes less than 5. But we talk about in academics, usually it's at least 4 sentences. It should be more 4 sentences. At that time, it's going to be a good paragraph. So we learned all the components of the paragraph. And now we are going to put 3 or 4 or 5 paragraphs together to make an essay. All right, this is an essay. So what is an essay? Essay is a group of paragraphs, usually 5 paragraphs or 4 paragraphs. That all of the 4 paragraphs are written about one single topic. It's not like going to talk about Kurdistan in one, like in terms of transportation, and I also go to Japan and talk about education in Japan. Well, transportation and traffic is quite different from education, university, and school. All right, so I cannot talk about 2 different things in one essay or paragraph. No, I only have to do it on one single topic, and also one central main idea. So it's okay, you can talk about education in Japan and Iraq, for example, because you are talking about education, for example, school system or universities. But you cannot talk about 2 different things. For example, in Kurdistan you talk about sport, in Japan you talk about technology. That doesn't make sense. All right, at that time the teacher will give you 0 and is going to be your hero. All right, the 3 main parts of an essay. Well, we have the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. So paragraph purpose. Each of these, well, as I said, guys, we have more than one paragraph now, and each one has a clear purpose, has a different purpose. For example, the first paragraph introduces the topic, so that's an introduction. States the purpose of the text, describes the problem and the situation. So generally, introduces the topic and also talks about the topic generally. It doesn't go in depth. It doesn't talk about the detail, guys. If you talk about a detail in the first paragraph, you've made a mistake and you'll lose marks for it. All right. We're talking about academic, guys. In other places, in informal text, you can write whatever you want. Nobody would say that this is wrong, because it's not wrong. You can write whatever you want. But in universities, in academic ways, no, you have to know what you write. If you are writing something that is not academic, that would be regarded as a mistake, guys. So whatever I'm talking about academic. If not, other places you can have an essay with one long paragraph. All right, and you can call it an essay, and nobody can say this is not an essay. So basically, it can be 2 paragraphs. It can be less than that, or a paragraph can be 2 sentences. It's okay. Look, like the things that we talk about are true only for academic. For other things are not true. Okay, so that's what we are dealing with. In the first paragraph, that's what we have, and then we have the body. The body can be 1 paragraph, it can be 2, it can be 3, it can be more. It depends on the topic. And then we have the final paragraph that concludes, that summarizes, that evaluates or discusses the consequences, or sometimes makes the final comment on the subject. All right. So sometimes discuss the results. All right. The consequences means results. All right. Identifying the purpose of each paragraph helps you understand the text and decide where to find useful information. Okay, guys. So why you should know this? Why you should know this? Because when you read a text, you have to know in which part of the text you are. Are you in the introduction? Are you in the conclusion in the end? Or you are in one of the bodies? Okay? So each body will talk about one thing. For example, we will talk about transportation. Okay? And we talk about problems and solutions. So at that time, we might need 2 bodies. The first one talk about the problems, and the second one will talk about the solution. Sometimes you may have something in terms of past, present, future. At that time, you must have 3 bodies. The first body, past, the second body, paragraph, present, and the third body, paragraph, would be future. So when you know this, and when you read the text, at that time you would understand the text easier. You would know in which part of the essay you are. Are you in the bodies, or are you in the introduction or conclusion? So it gives you a general idea of the text. So you would be expecting the information yourself without without really getting it, without really reading it. Okay, essay outline structure. Well, this is it. It's to visualize it, to make it a little more easier for you guys. So we have the introduction, which is the blue triangle, and here the blue triangle. That's the introduction that states the general idea, and then we have several bodies. Sometimes we have 2 bodies. It depends on the topic, depends on the way you talk about it. Sometimes you compare 2 things. So you talk about the comparing words, the points that they are similar, and also in the contrast you talk about the points that are different. So at that time 2 bodies would be enough for you. But if you talk about the subject or the topic in another way, that's divided into 3, at that time you must have 3 bodies. So these are the body paragraphs, and the last paragraph would be a conclusion. So generally you have 1 paragraph, 2, 3, 4, and 5, or it can be 4. So but you have to know essay is more. Usually essays are about 250 words. All right. Okay. It's very important within these essays, within these texts, that the text should be connected to each other. Okay. Now, if you if you look at the lessons from Cortiba in page 21, you'll find out that all of these paragraphs, all of these parts are all connected. For example, in the end of part B, hold on, look at the beginning of B. It says, as stated in the introduction. So that's a connection. That's a link with what? As if they're linked with a cable. That's how I see it, guys. The second, look at the yeah. It says as stated in the introduction. So that connects B with A. All right. Let's see how C and B connected. It says address these problems. Alright, it says population of Cortiba had grown. Well, it talks about the problem. So you would, when you finish the B, you expect that C is going to be about the problems. How do you know that? Because it says how then did Cortiba address these problems? So it talks about, makes a question and introduces that. Also, C and D are connected by who? By a person. What is it? Alfred Agachi. That's the person who was a French planner who suggested the solution. And also in D, you have the name as well. So that means C and D are connected. All right, let's see how D and E are connected. It says, as described below. So with a word, they have been connected with each other. Okay, so D and E are connected with a let's say a forward reference. So we're referencing forward, but in the B and A we are referencing backward. All right, we're referring to something happened in the back before, but when you mention that something is going to happen next, at that time we say referencing forward. And look at E and F, guys. It says to integrate all aspects of city planning. Integrate means to mix together. All right. And look at F, it says this integrated approach to urban design. All right. And look at the end of the F, it says good transportation. And G says what? G says good transportation as well. You see how they are connected, guys? So this is from a journal. This is an academic text. Usually academic texts are like that. So everything is connected. Everything is quite beautifully like a chain, like everything is connected, as if they're all connected with cables and like a web. Everything is connected and strongly tied together, and all of them together gives you a nice meaning and also gives detail about the subject. Very interesting. So this is what we want you to be able to do when you are reaching year 4 and doing your project. Sorry. All right, what do we have? Rephrasing keywords and expression. If you just look at the examples that I mentioned, guys, you will find these things. Or sometimes it's repeating. We had good transportation. That's a repetition. Sometimes you rephrase it. So you say for example, you say good traffic, for example, or good streets, good roads. Ending a paragraph with a question. Sometimes I think we had that in B or C, one of them. Using phrases which refer back or refer forward. That's what I said. All right, as it's stated in the introduction, that's referring back, and it says as you see below, or as described below. That means that's referring forward. Okay, now the reading is over. We are in the research part. In the research part, whenever you are doing a research, you might need these points. Using reference material. If you cannot find a topic, well, it's very important to know how to find it. Okay, to how to choose a good one. Well, choosing a topic can be very challenging. Sometimes it takes hours and days. You don't know what to talk about, what to write about. So sometimes you might have a lot of things in mind about a title, but you don't like the title itself. So at that time, finding a synonym, for example, instead of using plan, saying skim would make your title more beautiful and more interesting to people. And also more general topic words. Usually the topic words are general words, guys. We shouldn't pick up a specific word, a word that is not very, general. You have to use a word that's general. For example, what do we have in here? Look, science and biology, these words. Another thing is searching the internet efficiently, guys. It's very important when you want to make a search for something to know how to do it. Firstly, it depends on the pieces of information that you want, guys. If you want to find a specific information at that time, you would probably go to the search engines. It can be Yahoo or it can be Google.com. But if you want to get a fact, well, we prefer encyclopedias. For example, you want to get a fact about or a date or another information like the Independence Day of India. All right. So at that time, it's better to search in an encyclopedia. Encyclopedia is like Wikipedia is the most famous one, and also we have Britannica. That's also a very good. We used to have Encarta, which was also from Microsoft. And in here in the book we have another one, Bartleby. So we have a lot. The last one, we also have another engine that's ask.com, uk.ask.com, that you can ask direct question like who designed Canberra, and it will give you the person's name. Interesting. Alright, searching the internet efficiently. Number two, before doing the research, you have to plan what are you going to search for or look for. What is my research topic? So well, of course you have to have your topic, and then whenever you use a phrase, you have to put them between quotation mark. Now if you look for urban planning and don't put it in those quotation marks, at that time, look, let me show you what is a quotation mark, guys. This is quotation mark here. So this urban planning, if you see, guys, this is written between quotation mark. Now if you write this word between quotation marks and search for it, it will only gives you an article that these two words are together. But if you do not put them in quotation mark at that time, you will get articles and texts that these two words are separated. So somewhere you have urban, in somewhere else you have planning. So to make your search more accurate and to get what you wanted, you have to put them between brackets. And also you can add more things like pluses and minus. Look at here. In this part, you can use plus, that means and, or you can use minus or negative, that means not. For example, you say I want urban planning plus Brazil. So at that time, it will only give you something about urban planning in Brazil. All right. And for example, you don't want to get it for Europe. Maybe you're living in Europe, or the teacher said I want it to be in Brazil. So basically, at that time, Europe would be irrelevant to your search. So why? Why should I search for Europe? Why should I search for Asia or Africa, which is not my concern? So at that time, it's a wise choice. It's a wise idea to put plus your place. All right. So imagine, guys, if all of us, like, if me and one of you have to search for something, because I already know these techniques, and you might search for 15 minutes, and I might search for 15 minutes as well. I will get something very, very accurate for my topic, but you might not find any useful information in the internet. Why? Because you don't know how to search. So don't say, teacher, it's very easy, I'm gonna type google.com and type whatever I need and I'll find it and get it. No, it's not like that. Sometimes just adding quotation mark will let you get what is the right thing that you are looking for, but not using them will lead you astray, and also you will not be able to find the right thing that you are looking for. Or these pluses and minuses would help a lot, guys, believe me. These pluses and minuses, they help a lot. If you you don't know until you use them. I remember I was in year 4, a lot of students were coming to me and asking me, please help us to find resources and sources and books. And when I was looking for them and I was searching with the same internet, with the same Google, I could find a lot of useful books and information, and they couldn't get it. Why? Because I used these techniques, basically nothing else. Writing. Now we moved to writing, which is page 24. So open your books to page 24. In page 24 we have two things: selecting information, that's number 1, and then we have prioritizing. Selecting information, guys, is choosing what is relevant and you find it useful for yourself. Okay, so before you write, you should decide who are you writing for and why. This is very important. Are you writing for a university? Are you writing for a friend? Basically, deciding about this would help you to design your text, like how to write and what to write, and what information and what detail I should include in my writing. Even the language, even the words, even the vocabularies, the grammar, everything else will change. Make notes. All right, make notes. So that means you have to write points about the things that you're going to write. That's what we mean by making notes. Select only relevant information. So if something is not relevant to your study, you shouldn't talk about it. Okay. For example, you talk about football, you shouldn't mention anything related to swimming or related to basketball in your writing. You shouldn't. You should only include something that is related to your topic. And then when you guys chose these information, here comes the second thing. The second thing is what? To give them different priorities. So when you give them priority, at that time you'll find which one is more important than which one should come first, which one should come next, like that. So you will also be able to order through importance or sometimes through time. All right. For example, in your book you have a list of, a table like that. So for example, we want to talk about Albania. Albania is a country, well, it's actually a city, and we are trying to persuade people to make a trade fair in this place. Okay, so we thought of some points, and now in here I have to give them priority. Like, I have 3 points regarding transportation, so I have to decide which one is the most important, which one is the least important, which one is between, so. For example, in here I have prioritized my information like that. I said only 3 minutes away from the capital city, so this is a nice point that I can persuade people, that I can make people content that it should be in this place. Okay, for example, I say Kalar is a good place because it is near Parvez Khan border. So this thing would give me an idea that this place is important. Okay, but if I say it's 2 hours away from Slemani, that's not that important. All right, it's actually a weak point. So you should, even if you want to mention it, you should mention it in the end. So by priority, we mean the most important things number 1, the least important things in the end, like that. Okay, well, of course all of the points should be relevant. They should be connected to your topic. If they're irrelevant, you should cross them out, not even put them in the table. But if they're connected, if they're relevant at that time, you chose them, you selected these information at that time, you will prioritizing them. So the same thing for location, facilities, weather, and also trade and industry. So for each one we might have different priorities. I want you guys to read those 20 points and also put them in these, try to use selecting information and prioritizing to those points. Okay, brainstorming. Before writing, brainstorm for ideas. So brainstorming is what? When you think and write whatever comes to your mind before starting with your writing, before writing the first draft. Set a time for brainstorming and 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, so set a timer, have a sheet of paper and a pencil or a pen, and start writing whatever comes to your mind as much as you can. Write. That's it. And then when you finished, so look, it says quickly write down everything you can about the topic. So everything you can about the topic. So maybe you have to include the where, the place, or sometimes you have to include when. The WH are very important. Why, how, who. You should, guys, whenever you want to write about something, asking yourself the WH, who, where, when, how, why. These questions are very important and they will help you to write. Don't worry about what is more or less important. Well, it's not time for selecting information and prioritizing. We will do that later, but now just write. Even if it's irrelevant, write. Even if grammatical mistakes, no problem, write. Sometimes you just have to write words, not the full sentence. So you shouldn't write in full sentence in brainstorming. Just write the points, the ideas. At the end of the time, read and organize and select and prioritize. So the points that we studied, so brainstorming happens first, and then we have selecting information and prioritizing. But in your book talks about it like that. Anyway, vocabulary development, collocations. This is the last thing. What are collocations? We already talked about collocations. Collocations are two words that go together. For example, we say take pictures. We don't say have a picture. We don't say make a picture. No, you have your mobile phone, we say take a picture. And we say do homework, for example. We say do research. We say play football. All right. So these words, we call them collocations. So sometimes we have adjectives and nouns. Like this, we say urban planning. So urban is adjective, which means complex and also advanced and developed. Planning is a noun. Also do research. This one is a verb and a noun. Research is a noun and do is a verb. So sometimes collocations are like that. Always record these words together. So one more important point about these words, you shouldn't memorize them separately. Okay? You should always, when you search for these words, you should know that this word has a connection with that, with a collocation. So usually when you search for a word, you have to also search for the words that the word collocate with it. For example, we have these examples in here. Traffic, usually English people say heavy traffic, not big traffic or large traffic. That's what the English people use. So heavy collocates with traffic. Number two, approximate, estimate, rough estimate, general. Usually the people say rough. A rough estimation would be 70%, for example. All right, so that means around 70%. Okay, estimate means anticipation. All right. Economy, we say global economy. We never say earthly. Earthly is not a word that collocates with that. How do we know that? Well, checking dictionaries and also dealing with native people would also help you, or also using the language. Using the language would make you more familiar with these points. Anyway, but that's collocation, guys. Two words that go together and comes together. In the exam, you might get them, like which word goes with which word. But I'm not gonna give you something outside the book. I'll only bring books, words, something that's found in the book. Finally, thank you very much indeed, guys. Thank you for listening. It took so long. I know the video took so long, but the materials are important. That's why. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned from it. Like the video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much indeed, guys. See you. Bye bye.